let's dive in here. So there's a couple things that you want to think about before you even start writing your resume. And that is, no one's going to read it, right? They're going to skim your resume, and you only have about 5 seconds before your audience has decided to call you or delete it and move on, okay? So what you have to do is you have to manage your real estate carefully, right? And you have to eliminate a lot of the white space, right? You don't want a lot of white space. And you got to catch their attention in the first half of the page. All right, another thing to keep in mind is your resume is your brochure. It is a piece of marketing material, okay? Is it easy to tell what you do, or is it kind of a mystery, right? What kind of story is your resume telling? Is it consistent? Like I said, you only get about 5 seconds before the reader is already deciding what they're going to do with you, okay? If there's any reason at all for confusion on your resume anywhere, that's going to be an easy decision right there. You're just going to say no and move on, okay? Another thing you want to remember is this resume has to be easily digestible by applicant tracking systems, which don't like heavy formatting. They hate tables, so keep it very simple, right? I'm either bolding things, I'm using tabs. I'm using tabs to line up these technical skills here and to line up the dates of your employment. And other than that, I'm just using bold or not. That's it. That's really all you need. Don't get any more complicated than that. At the top of the resume, right underneath your name, I want you to put your job title, because first thing that a recruiter or an HR person is thinking about whenever they look at your resume is they're trying to figure out, what are you? What's your skill set? And then they want to know where you're located. So you want to put those things right up top, and then a link to your LinkedIn profile as well. Your education and your training classes, they always go at the very bottom of your resume. They always go last. Even if you're a fresh graduate, you never lead with your education. It always goes at the bottom, okay? Something else you need to remember. A lot of people use an objective statement. There's actually no place for an objective statement in your resume. They serve no purpose. They add no value, because your audience, I'm sorry to say, they don't care what your objectives are. The only thing they care about is what you can bring to the company, what skill sets you offer. And then, okay, let's talk about your summary here. Okay, I'll just read this. You want to write a brief summary about yourself. That would generally take about 30 seconds for you to tell someone verbally, just like your elevator pitch. And it should start with your job title. Again, referencing that job title, which is important. How many years of experience you have, followed by your areas of expertise or your core competencies, the industries that you've worked in, and the technologies that you know very well. It should be written from what they call first person implied point of view, because you shouldn't use I or me or my anywhere in your resume. It should not be written in the first person. And it really shouldn't be written in the third person where you're referring to yourself by name. And it should not, for any reason, include opinions that you have about yourself, because honestly, they don't matter. The only opinions that would matter are the opinions of your supervisors that you've worked for, your boss, and your past colleagues, what they've said about you. Those are the only opinions that really matter, not your own opinions about yourself, okay? It's very important. And it's also not a bad idea when you're writing this summary to just use a hint of personality in there a little bit, right? Make it a fun paragraph to read. Make it somewhat catchy, right? It can't be completely stale. It's okay to use a little bit of personality, a little playful words in there, but no opinions, okay? And next you want to get into your technical skills, okay? And you want to break them down in a category of what they are, right? This is a technical resume, which I'm a technical recruiter, so that's what I know best. But you still would, whatever your skill sets are, you still want to categorize them and list them out. This is like an inventory of all the skill sets and tools and technologies that you've used. But the number one rule about this section is anything that you bring up in this section, you also need to refer to it in all the places that you've used it, that you've had hands-on experience with it. So if it shows up anywhere here, then it also needs to show up in the bullet points of the jobs that you touched it, right? If it's just up here, then it literally means nothing. You have to be able to cross-reference it somewhere else in your resume of a time and a place that you used it. Okay, very important. Your certifications, though, they go up top, okay? Make sure you put the month and the year that you acquired that certification, okay? And you want all these dates all the way down your resume. You want them lined up perfectly, right? Another thing about dates, very important, and it's a big red flag for recruiters and HR people if you're not using the month and the year, right? If you're just using the year, our first thought is you're trying to hide a work gap of some kind, okay? If your resume says you're in a place from 2018 to 2019, then we automatically assume that means December 2018 to January 2019, and then you were unemployed the rest of the time, okay? You want to list the company name, how long you were there, and then if you held multiple jobs at that particular company, then you also want to put the length of time that you were in that particular role, or the roles that you had, and then the different duties that you had in those two different roles. But I'm putting the total amount of time that you spent at the company in bold, but I'm not bolding the time you spent in that particular position, the role that you had. Right, so I also like to know where the position sat when you were working there. If it's remote, just put remote. And it's also good to know if it was a contract position or if you're a full-time employee. A lot of recruiters want to know that, so it's best to just put it right there. Okay, now let's talk about bullet points. All right, you want about 5 to 7 bullet points. Okay, you don't need any more than that. Okay. You definitely don't need any more than 10. Sometimes I see resumes where people are literally using 20 to 25 bullet points in a job, and it's keyword overload. And I immediately think that half the resume is made up when I see that, okay? Especially when there's a dictionary worth of keywords on the resume, okay? No one, and I mean no one, is an expert in every technology that some people put on their resume, okay? You really only want to advertise the tools and technologies that you are very strong in, right? That you know very well, that you can train other people in, okay? If you just have exposure to a technology, or if someone on your team used that technology but you never really did, that doesn't belong on your resume. So 5 to 7 bullet points, no more than 10 if you have to. Begin each one of these bullet points using a power word, okay, in the past tense. So you created something, you implemented something, you managed, you performed a task, whatever it is, but you want to start it with a past tense power word. You want to describe the role, right? What are your responsibilities? How big was the team? What was the scope of the project? What methodologies were you using? And you also want to add quantitative descriptions in as many places as you can. How many of these widgets did you make, right? How many people were on your team? How much revenue was it bringing in? How many bugs did you fix a week, right? I mean, and you want to use exact names of the tools and technologies you were using. No abbreviations, no internal lingo, right? Just keep in mind, right? These are recruiters and HR people who are trying to find your resume, not necessarily engineers. So if you put a lot of engineer speak and not these common phrases and keywords that are searched for by recruiters, you're not going to get found, okay? So use the exact names and tools. And then at the very last bullet point of each job that you've had, you want to end it with an environment section, which also lists out just a overview of all the tools and technologies in the environment. Mind you, this is for your benefit because you want to showcase the keywords. They need to show up multiple times in your resume, okay? They need to show up like 6 or 7 times at least for you to increase your relevancy in the applicant tracking systems and recruiters on the job boards and LinkedIn and their own database. All they're doing is searching for keywords. So if you don't have the keywords, you're not going to show up in their search, okay? Be mindful of what's going on there. Here's something else you need to keep in mind. People really only care about the work you've been doing for the past 3 to 5 years, okay? People do not care what you were doing 10 years ago, right? So the majority of the content in your resume needs to focus on what you've been doing recently. Anything over 10 years old, you can literally condense it down to a minimum amount of content. There's no reason to go into depth about the things you did that long ago, okay? Because especially in a technical role, because technology changes so quickly. 10 years ago is a lifetime ago, okay? Companies are operating much differently than they were 10 years ago. They're especially not looking most of the time for the skill sets that are 10 years old. So, keep that in mind, okay? Okay, in the education section, I'm going to put the degree you acquired, right? The name of the school you went to, where it was, and the dates you were there. And then the same thing for the training classes that you took, right? Because those are important. They don't go at the top of your resume, they go at the bottom. Let's talk about age discrimination, okay? Because it exists, all right? It's not supposed to, but unfortunately, sometimes it does, okay? So some folks will, especially when they have 25, 30 years of experience and they graduated, 25, 30 years ago, it's okay to leave the date off of your resume. And that's another reason why you should only advertise or only use a lot of content for your most recent experience and then condense everything that was 10 years ago, okay, and older, right? And you may just want to leave the dates off completely, right? Because it is going to date you. So keep that in mind. Also, sometimes I see weird stuff like hobbies, things that just don't belong in a resume, okay? Leave that off, all right? Volunteer experience, that's nice to put on there. I would put that on there. You can advertise stuff like that. But leave the hobbies off, okay? And also, leave your references off your resume. You don't have to put them at the bottom, and you don't even have to say, references available upon request. Okay, everybody knows that. Okay, don't put that on there. So, hope that was helpful. That's pretty much it. I'm probably gonna think of more stuff, but not right now. So I'll leave you with that. Oh, and another thing you can do that'll save you a lot of time is use the resume feature on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn will produce a very clean resume for you. All you have to do is click the link where you're able to download a PDF copy of your LinkedIn profile, and that'll help you avoid a lot of mistakes right there. So that's another thing you might want to consider. Just use LinkedIn. If you like this video, please subscribe and hit the like button, and also leave a comment because I'd love to hear your thoughts. And then YouTube will let you know whenever I put out new videos.